Exactly.
My town site, where's my packet? Meetings and minutes. Schedule.
Is there more? No, I think there's.
Guy. Is that?
I'm not
You
gonna
need
take
more
up.
room?
No, I don't even know if you need more. I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm just spread out and do, I'm just.
Oh, you're at the corner. Well, I don't know who's supposed to be here.
Not just trying to.
Usually I try to see if they're in, so there's. But it
Oh.
looked like there were two chairs there. I think it's just.
There are two chairs.
There are.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you?
Clueless, you know.
Listen.
I stay out of trouble. No,
Well,
in the world.
there's only one way up. Though.
That's what I say. That's what I say. I'm trying to do the work and
I'm just feeling sort of like I've run out of gas on the whole project. And boy, have I got.
Well, got a pretty simple agenda.
we do. Let's keep it.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Well, I do want to have some discussion, some actual discussion today. Let's see if we can accomplish that, you know.
On topic or off topic?
On topic.
Okay. Just checking.
Stop it. We could do off topic across the street.
Right.
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 That we used to do years ago. Go to Armando's after the meetings and do the real discussion.
Oh, the old Armando's over, yeah. When we first came to town, that was open and that was quite a scene.
Yeah, it was great. That's one of the reasons I moved here.
It was kind
Yeah.
of great.
Yeah.
Well, we did that at Hopkins store when I first came here, Hopkins store was still open. They were having bands every Friday
Recorded
night.
now, so we have
That's all right.
to get down to it
Yeah.
here. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
I'm not saying anything. I'm so hard.
Right.
Am I on? Okay, I'm on. Okay, we need to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. So I'm not going to bang the gavel. Attendance, we have established a quorum. We have one absence.
I need to take your attendance.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Okay,
Commissioner Adler. Chairperson Greer,
here.
Commissioner Holdren. Commissioner Lavity. Commissioner McGowan
Here.
and Commissioner Weitzel.
Here.
Okay, now you have. quorum.
All right, now we can go. May we approve the minutes of May 3rd? Any comments on those minutes?
I will abstain since I wasn't here.
Okay,
To approve the minutes. March 3rd, 2025.
all right. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Okay, so moving right along here. We have public comment listed as 4, but I think if it's okay with you guys, with everybody here, I want to flip it to after we've started our discussion of the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive plan process. Are members of the public okay with that if we flip it? And you all are okay if we flip it? I think it makes more sense this time. We're going to be trying something new when we have multiple issues on the agenda where there's multiple opportunities to comment. And because this tends to be a smaller group, it's a good way to experiment with this before taking it to something like town council. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're going to begin discussing the comprehensive plan process. Oh, let me also note in passing to you guys that we are still waiting for Matt to be able to talk with the lawyer and that hopefully next month we will get the bylaws voted on and completed. Did you get them back?
Validate them for you.
Okay. Great, thanks. So we'll get those knocked out at the next meeting. Before we start this, I'm going to take advantage of my exalted position as chair to make an opening statement about the comprehensive plan and the public process. And I'll give this to Debbie to put in the record. With this meeting, the Onancock Planning Commission begins its work updating and revising the 2021 comprehensive plan following Virginia law. This process will take place over the next 12 months, we anticipate, and the final product is intended to help the municipality and its citizens look further down the road than day-to-day demands of governance typically permit. I want to thank the previous Planning Commission for their work in assembling this. It was a long, hard process, and they've given us a nice working document as we begin our deliberations. So what is a comprehensive plan? Under the Virginia Code, Chapter 22, Article 3, each municipality's, quote, local planning commission shall prepare and recommend a comprehensive plan for the physical development of the territory within its jurisdiction, and every governing body shall adopt a comprehensive plan for the territory under its jurisdiction, end quote. This plan is a policy document, first and foremost, that must be approved by, in this case, our town council. Its purpose is to enable the town of Onancock to anticipate and deal constructively with changes occurring within the community. Comprehensive plans have several required elements, including official maps, analysis of local demographics, a transportation plan that's required by VDOT, and analysis of local zoning, included designated areas, quote unquote, for affordable housing, along with strategies for broadband, which we have achieved. So it's nice we're a little ahead as we begin our process. However, the plan may also contain elective elements which are listed in the code. These include planning for groundwater protection and other environmental issues, the care of historic areas, various land uses, including recreation, capital improvement needs, and economic development. Each policy discussion in the plan may conclude with a set of recommendations for action on the part of the municipal government. These may include recommendations for revisions to zoning, but the plan is clearly more than that. For example, I take that policies may also include explicit recommendations for working with non-governmental partners on important issues. And here I'm thinking particularly of economic development, where we have several active non-governmental entities that are interested in this, as well as the Economic Development Authority and the Planning Commission. Once the plan is drafted, the town council must approve it, or it can send the plan back to the commission for revisions. My reading on comprehensive plans also makes a point of recommending that once a plan has been submitted and revised as necessary and then accepted, planning commissions undertake an annual evaluation of the plan with the possibility of further revisions. I see this as a high priority because one of the problems with the previous plan was it was put in place, and then as far as I can tell, among most people in the community, it has disappeared from public sight. Tonight, the members of the Planning Commission, who are just getting to know one another, will begin a conversation about the strengths of the 2021 plan and the topics that are either missing from the plan or are not strong statements of policy. We will also begin to work on developing a process and a schedule for seeking input from a wide and diverse cross-section of citizens of our town. I don't want to speak for my colleagues, so let me just say that my goal as chair of the Planning Commission is to create a working and evolving document that our town government will adopt as its own policy guide to setting priorities and planning at a time when resources of time and treasure need to be monitored with particular care. So that's my opening statement. So what I want to do now is I've put a couple copies of the comprehensive plan out there so that the public you can look at them if you want. Guys, one is in that white notebook, and then there's another one that just has a binder clip. And I also put out copies of questions that I sent to my fellow members. And what I would like to begin with is just sort of comments from you all about what your thinking are the particular strengths, where are the good things in the comprehensive plan that we can build on. It's
Well,
like a seminar and I can outweigh you guys.
Well, it's a good starting. And it's, it covers all the bases. It just needs to be updated and probably better information added to it.
Okay, so better information. Certainly we can get better demographic information pretty easily now.
I guess one of my questions would be that there's a lot of goals listed in it. And so do we have some idea of what were the accomplishment or the status of
Thank
meeting
you.
these goals?
That's good because that's a good point. And so Matt, how is it possible for us to go through this and get a sense about what has been achieved, as in the case of broadband, and what has not been on the table at all?
I'm not sure that broadband was the local planning commission comp plan goals.
Okay,
But I'm happy to give a report on the status.
that would be great. Could we, next month, we're going to talk about maps and maybe we could fit that in the next month's meeting where we can kind of go through the plan together and figure out, what's out there that looks good, but nothing's happened with it. What seems to be off the table at this point.
One thing I would have liked to have seen in the plan, excuse me just a second, was, and it's associated with what did we accomplish? And that was really, what were the priorities? Or how were the goals ranked? Which ones were really just low-hanging fruit that we took or, came about because we were doing other things? And I didn't really see that kind of ranking. And I think that might be helpful
Okay,
as we move forward, because as we both accomplish and as things change, that will help, I think, direct us a little more.
yeah, I agree. And I also think that once we've done made a policy statement, that we don't burden people with, 10 good ideas, right, about what things should be doing, that we have to be pretty measured as we think about that. Okay.
These are unnumbered. You can certainly see that 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Are maps useful? So we're talking about maps tonight, or we not?
No, we can talk about them because I'm thinking the same thing and you're in a graphic design, so you probably have a strong feeling about this.
It's certainly better in print than it was but they were simply too small to be useful,
Yeah,
except that if you compare that to, of course, you can't use you have to mark it up and go to Google Earth or something, just that, and look at it. And at one point they were mentioning a 2007 approval of 29 housing units off of Jackson Street. So just to be sure, although I walked that a lot, I went there and I'm like, well, at least I didn't know it was a 2024 map, even though it said 25, because I looked in my car, and whether or not we'd done work in the backyard. And so, okay, as of 2024 anyway, nothing had been done there.
right.
So, but I can't mark up the soil districts or the, whatever it would be. And the maps that are in the document we have are just not useful.
Thanks. That actually was a point that I was going to bring up, and I'm glad you brought it up because I also think that sometimes they have too many layers of information in them and the key is not clear. And it might be possible for us to think about the maps in a way where we don't have multiple layers of information in some of the maps, that we try to make them really clear. I'm with you on that.
Had this argument forever, academic environment, of whether or not you could publish something in an electronic format with a link that would allow us to get to a 27-inch screen size map that we could zoom in on. Because if it has to be printed, we're going to be stuck with some things that are not as useful as they could be, unless you can do a fold out or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Interject,
Yes.
I'm ordering maps for next meeting a
Thank you.
larger 36 by 40, and then 12 by 18 for each individual.
Mhm.
And that link already does exist,
Okay, I
where you can go on the website under residence, it says zoning map.
Well,
You
that's-
can blow it
okay,
up to whatever
awesome.
size works.
I guess what I would like to see though, if it's gonna be referenced in the comprehensive plan of what's made available to the subject, to the public rather, that, we make sure that that's available. They don't have to go look at another resource to do it, even if it does exist. So have it embedded in the plan.
Mhm.
So you can't give everybody a 36-inch map, that would be cost prohibitive. But if we can produce an electronic copy that has that link, if you can go to that PDF, boom, there you go. If you got a printed document, at least you could then type it in or something.
Okay.
But I didn't know if we were really mandated to have a print only, or if there was an electronic version.
We have to have one on display in the town hall.
Okay, yeah, but I think the visualizations could be improved.
That's great. Thank you, because I thought of that, but you have much more skill in that area, so I'm really appreciative. And if we decided that we needed something really specialized that was not something that, I'm just going to throw something out, it's not real, so don't panic. Archaeological resources, right? And we needed something really specialized. I know a map maker in this community who can produce, if we need something really specialized, he can do those maps. He's a private practitioner and he does maps for a lot of different clients, including academic books and all kinds of things. So that if it turns out we need something that's particularly specialized, I think we could get Bill Nelson to produce it for us so we can see what we need down the road. So, okay.
I would say in the text, at least full page maps and color if the base map is color.
Okay.
And then whatever we can enhance it with online links, that'd be great.
What additional maps could the plan contain that would help with future planning and implementation? I think that could go on forever. Once you start into that, you could really start to, see, oh, that'd be really interesting and that'd be really. So I was reading the part about the marina and who owned what, and there were entities other than the town that were part of that, but then the town owned this, and then there was going to be a boardwalk in that place, and I'm going visuals. So
I know.
in some cases, if we're going to reference it, especially if it's going to be out in the public, there ought to be something there, even if it's a sketch in a way, so that you
Yeah.
can go, oh, there's the boat launch ramp, that's the boardwalk, so
Yeah.
there isn't any confusion.
No, I agree. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
I'm not going to say what maps it could be, that's just a suggestion.
We'll figure it out. It's one of those things that during the process, we'll sort of figure out what we have that's needed that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
One map that I think is missing is the historic district map.
Mhm.
And I think that's black and white, but, and maps can be put in an appendix too.
Yeah,
So,
right.
instead of having a map every other page, you can have some reference maps in the back as an appendix.
One goal I have in this is for the plan to be concise, certainly not any longer than what it is now. And so the other thing is we may try putting some data like demographic data in a format other than a narrative paragraph, right? That we do something in a chart or some things like that that'll make it easy to reference. Concise, I think it's important for us to try to be concise as we move ahead. I thought a particular strength of the plan was actually the discussion of the environmental characteristics. It wasn't really linked up to maps really clearly, but I appreciated the discussion of the soils, the waters, the water, the sort of where the town sort of fits in geographically and environmentally. I thought that was really helpful. We may want to figure out how to boil that down a little bit or put it in shorter paragraphs or things like that to make it more digestible, assuming we want to retain it.
Some of that is supporting information for the Bay Act section.
Yes.
And that's kind of split in two places. So that's something I noticed that
Yeah. Okay.
we try to work through that. So it makes more sense.
So how did you guys feel about, well, let me just put it this way. So what do you feel is missing that needs to be further, that could stand to be further developed or included?
Well, the existing plan talks a lot about undeveloped land and agricultural land.
Mm-hmm.
And there parts of it talk about new development. But there's no real connection between what type of new development or what ordinances we might need, because I don't think the existing town ordinances really are adequate for a new development,
Mm-hmm.
like was discussed at what, February meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an ordinance capable of managing that. So I think that there's got to be some discussion of that.
Okay, great. I thought the economic development section left a lot to be desired, and I see you smiling down there. At any rate, I thought it left to be a lot to be desired, and it was notable for the absence of any recommendations at all.
Right.
And this predates the Economic Development Authority, certainly. And I would think that as we do this, that we might want to plan a joint meeting with the Economic Development Authority and also make a point of inviting Main Street and Onancock Business and Civic Association so that we have some kind of a, a larger group meeting where we actually talk about this and get everybody in the same, in the same room at the same time. How do you guys feel about doing something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mention of Oregon Ag Costs.
Yeah.
That ended up being then in 2019. Got the largest property in the town. It's owned by the town. And you have a business, a 501c3 that has, I believe it's 21 separate businesses in there right now.
Yeah.
It literally draws thousands of people a year. There's even a reference to the ice cream social, which is out on the ground, so there's some stuff that just,
Yeah.
6 references to the blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
I've never seen open in the 3 years I've been here.
Well, it's open for special events, and I do think that when we talk about historic districts, that we want to make sure we include the blacksmith shop, because I think it's a crucial asset for the historic Northeast. And the town has, helped keep it standing, but it may be that we want to consider an extension of the historic district or some other things to bring it into the fold more, because it's kind of floating out there. And if Gerald Boyd dropped dead tomorrow, if he was no longer there, we would have a big problem, because this has been a work of willpower on his part. Yeah.
Thousands of people that show up for every.
Yeah, that was one of my comments, that it's not really mentioned in different places as other things are. In fact, it's not mentioned under the historic properties,
I don't think it's technically historic because.
wasn't it?
Well,
Didn't Ann not get a designation
No,
for it?
no, I'm writing
Okay.
grants for the school now, and that's one of the things I had to look into.
It's
Turns out
eligible.
We're not.
Oh, I thought so it didn't get on it's not on the National Register. That's interesting,
Okay.
because it's old enough to be on the National Register for sure.
There's.
Yeah.
Various kinds of levels of that. Apparently, none of those ever got met. We lost out on a grant we could have submitted. I thought it was a really good possibility, but we don't have that status.
Yeah.
And that's this spring.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we're not there. And I got that from Joni directly.
Well, there's kind of two ways to think about where to include the school, and we can think about this down the road. And one has to do with recreation and cultural life, and the other part has to do with the assets that are owned by the town. So we'll have to sort of figure out how that's.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with the plan, because it kind of jumps around, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of crossover between the different places and the different topics, but as much as we can simplify it, it would be better.
Okay.
Things can land in more than one place.
Yeah,
True.
but one should be more dominant than the other,
There
if
should
you,
be,
or the first mention of it should give the, you know,
Frame
the general info, and then later on, you can refer to it.
It does have a car place. It goes through, you know, lots and lots of detail about car place.
I know.
Register and whatever. And then it was like, yeah, and it's amazing. It truly is. You know, but then some of the other things.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that much detail should be in there about CarPlace. I mean, I really don't. I think you can refer people to their website, right? And
Well, you could, but if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
you probably need to-
that's right. That's right. So we've got to figure out whether, yeah, like I said, I'm trying to be mindful. It could be that we write it and then hack away at it, but I'm trying to be mindful of
right.
what?
Write it down. and-
I agree. I agree. Better to, you know, what I used to call to my students, the vomit approach. Get it out there and then you can edit. Yeah, but you know exactly.
I always thought the term
They
was-
understood it.
I thought the term was editing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, editing. Yep, yep. So, okay. What else strikes you that is either particular strength or something that you feel is lacking, is
So-
absent?
One thing,
Well, I was
Yep,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, in a couple of areas, it talks about things that it either encourages or discourages. You know, for example, under building facades, signs and things like that. But then there's nothing in the goals to say, I want to do something about this.
Yeah,
So I think tying, you know, the information to the goals is probably something that we want to review in each of the areas.
okay. Good point.
They should all support a goal. And I mean, A, and B, why the ranking comment, you know, we want to make sure that we're directing our activities and funds toward the goals that we want to accomplish efficiently as possible.
we have on page 7, at least of what I'm looking at. Under public participation in 2019, there were 5 things brought up by the public. Quality of life, business and cultural, transportation, housing, neighborhoods and town, services and governance. And those things are things we can certainly build off of and maybe subdivide or add,
Mm-hmm,
but all those seem to be certainly relevant today.
mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of business and that have only been here 3.5 years, but how many businesses have changed? If this plan was presented in its draft form in 2019, and it's 2025 right now, how many businesses have come and gone or changed or whatever?
Well, there's a section on that. It doesn't mention names, but it mentions the number that
Yeah,
have
they-
changed
they-
over. Yeah. One thing I noticed is the plan talks about land use, but it doesn't specifically condense it into a land use plan and a future land use map, which is really one of the main purposes
Mhm.
of a comprehensive plan, because that's what guides the zoning ordinance. And if you have a zoning issue that is contested, the judge will go back to the land use plan and see what the rationale was for that district and decisions that were made. So I'd like to see more done on that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else strike you guys at this point? This is a lot of material. That's all right. It'll come back and we can continue this next month. So before we go on, we want to talk about structuring, before we open up to public comment, let's begin the process of discussing public input and how we're going to structure public input. Like I said, I already think that we need a sort of an economic summit. I hate to use the term summit, but you know what I mean, where we get all the parties together. Now, I don't know what that means in terms of FOIA, right? I mean, if we put everybody, if we have a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and the Economic Development Authority, and we invite these other 2 parties, what,
The other 2 parties are bodies.
Yeah.
and Special meeting,
okay,
both.
okay,
meeting,
okay, all right.
No big.
Okay, so, yeah, I do think we need to do that, and then we can see whether that leads to some kind of subgroup that can continue that conversation. But how else do you think we might draw on and include public impact. I'm particularly concerned about the historic Northeast because I think that we have to go to them. There's a long history of feeling not completely welcome in this kind of process. So I do think we need to go to them, and I'm actually pondering whether, let's see, with FOIA, can two of us could be together, right? Or is that a meeting? Two of us. Yeah, so two of us could, for example, see if we could get Stanford and Clinton to get that and get the neighborhood group together with two of us to sort of talk about that. That would be legal within the parameters of FOIA.
It might be worth it also to have a session or two at the blacksmith shop,
Okay,
right? I mean, take advantage of the community resource and have an open day there too, so anybody.
I would suggest if we're, last time we just had an evening session in Hancock School. And it was pretty well attended, certainly not 1,000 people, but we had probably 50 people. And we had some members of the Northeast community. So I would say if you want to have a separate session with the Northeast community, have it at the same level as the other workshop.
right.
And make it available to everybody in town,
Mhm.
because that way it's fair to everybody. Because I'm a little concerned about creating a separate thing. And are there other constituencies in town where we should offer the same thing too?
Well, it could be that what we do is we just have what we do is we have a workshop in that neighborhood, a workshop at another location, Cokesbury Church or something like that. And, try to put it in is to have the same thing in a couple of different locations. And I do think that at the same time, in my experience of this stuff, what I've found is that everybody does better when they have, you can do a general Q&A session, but what I've also found is that everybody does better when they have something to respond to. And I don't know what that would be exactly. A set of questions like this that says, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? That we could work up that set of questions together so that they have something to respond to. I've just found that works better than going in cold and saying, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, you have to have
Yeah,
an outline.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Without completely.
yeah.
Pretty comprehensive view of the experience you have living in the town. What about the quality of life? Small town feel, walkability, friendly, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Business and cultural, arena, theaters, et cetera, transportation. What's that like? Traffic lights, there's still no traffic lights. Lack of parking, crosswalks, housing in neighborhoods, is it affordable, is it positive or negative? What about unkempt yards or rundown houses? Town services, police force, arena, ball fields and all that. That's right there. So we got that.
yeah.
Build off of that.
I think the way to go would be to have some kind of a handout like that so that they have something. It's better off again if somebody has something to look at,
Well,
they can respond to.
When we did that workshop, we introduced the process, and then we asked people to sit together, break into small groups with a list of questions.
Mhm.
And then they stood up and said what each table felt about it. And that's where we got that information.
Okay,
Positives and negatives. I think that's really well organized.
And we can ask for a small budget for that, for the paper, can we not? So,
to advertise it?
and for any actual
Oh, yeah,
lists, et cetera, that we would need.
yeah. And beverages, non-alcoholic beverages. I think you have to give people a cup of coffee or iced tea or
Yeah,
something.
we have.
Yes, you got to have refreshments.
required.
I'm all about refreshments. Yeah. So let's get everybody's blood sugar up.
With the OBCA and the Main Street Group, and I guess the EDA is a public body. But one thing we could do is maybe two people go meet with them, interview them, do a similar process without having to have everybody there. Because it's gonna get to be a lot, but you can get their input and write that down and then, use that as information. for the Plan.
Well,
And this can all be-
Cindy and I are both on the board of OMS,
Okay,
so
Mhm.
definitely give you some input.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's true too. We have a lot of crossover.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We don't have anybody on this who's in the EDA though, right? No, there's nobody who's sitting on the EDA. Okay. Well, they need to come into they need to enter the tent. I feel like they're still kind of out there. Let's see if we can get them into the tent. Okay. So if we start doing these meetings, after we've spent time working on maps and we've had a couple of discussions, what do you think is the timeline and when do you want to do this? Is summer a bad time to do this? Is it a good time? Do we want to do it in the fall? What are you guys thinking?
Either do it before the summer or in the fall. I think the last one was done in September,
All right.
because you won't get the
For the
turnout.
summer.
And summer's almost upon us.
Meanwhile, we can be updating all the data in the. maps
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's a good idea. All right.
without Assigning any,
Right.
opinions to it. We can. be
Yeah,
updating
we
all
can
that
work
stuff.
on that and work on the maps, which I think is a big, big thing. Okay, so why don't we say that we'll try to do these public input meetings at we'll wait till a little bit after Labor Day. Let's get sort of in the second half of September, early October. How does that sound? Okay,
Would shoot for right after Labor Day if you can, because
okay,
people get busy and, if something slips, you'll be back to after the holidays.
no. It's really hard to schedule stuff. I'm involved in trying to schedule stuff for the Library Foundation. It makes me
Yeah.
crazy. It's so hard to schedule stuff. Okay.
What about taking advantage of Labor Day? So that, like a little kiosk or something at an Hancock school or,
They already have something else on the agenda. Honestly.
I thought there were programs that,
Sometimes.
and just take advantage any place that has a program is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That,
you could have a table at any town events,
Yeah.
see, that's what I'm
And-
thinking.
Okay.
but we need something to have at the table, whether it's like a list of questions or just something so you can discuss with people
Right.
what's happening.
Which is-
And some maps too. The
I'm just
maps-
thinking, take advantage of it,
Yeah,
of those
Okay.
people already coming together.
Okay.
Just an idea.
No, that's fine. Yeah, okay. Let's see how far we get as we move towards the ice cream social. If it's not ready for then, there'll be
Sure.
other events. So,
Just a thought. Saturdays. Every-
mhm.
And, they've had plenty of other things there. I think even the library's had a table, over time, not often, but they do.
Well, yeah, when we were pushing mower tickets.
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that's over. We're
You have
not,
to have a raffle.
I know, we're not doing that anymore. We need a raffle. We could have a raffle for a drawing. We have to call them a drawing, because if you call it a raffle, it's gambling. So you have to call it a drawing.
But the farmer's market, opportunistic data sampling, and data acquisition. I think that's,
Yeah,
It's a good way to hear what people are thinking.
Right.
yeah. Okay.
there you go. The new-
Along with free samples of cholesterol drugs. So, okay. Here, okay. So we're not at the point yet, but I'm going to try to get you all to take responsibility for sections of the plan. But what we'll do is let's talk about that next month and see if we can get, you'll have time to have thought about it a little more, and then see if we can get people to take responsibilities for sort of rustling up a particular, dealing with it. I can see you being the wizard of maps, No, but you know what's clear graphically and what isn't. So it's not about technical expertise. There's technical expertise out there. What we need is a set of eyeballs that say, I don't understand this map. That's what we need, right? So, but in any event, let's plan to hold off on that final question. And is there anything you guys would like to add to this right now? And then I'm going to open the floor for public comment to the conversation that we've had so
I
far.
have a couple of pages of stuff.
Yes.
but,
No, go ahead.
One is the sea level rise. There was a study done in, I think, 2018 about this raft group, which was out of ODU. I don't even know what raft means, resilient something or other. But they published a report and raft is mentioned, but it's not explained. So we need to
Okay.
explain that and get a copy of that report. And the other thing is, within the goals and some of the text, we should be listing the state programs that can help fund the proposed projects.
Okay.
For us and for future, because a lot of the text is pretty vague. It'll say things, but
I know.
it doesn't have any references. It doesn't have any specific data. And some of that data does exist, so we should include it.
Okay. Good point.
And the context we should include as well.
Resilience, adaptation, feasibility tool.
Yeah.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
And resilience is mentioned in the code, but it's also mentioned in other planning documents that's really a big deal now. So, and we should indeed.
Well, and there is or was money available to do more detailed plans for communities. And there was one,
As an institute, coastal adaptation.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Pretty serious.
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
so that's a good resource.
Okay.
And I think Councilman Marino and Holden are up on that more than they advocate for it
Okay.
or have been, so they would be good local contact people.
Okay. I like the idea about adding stuff that, if we make a policy statement and make some suggestions of goals to actually provide resources that say, look, you can, here's money, here's support. So that it's sort of a footnotes or bibliography, as it were.
It also lays out revisions and the need to relook at the plan every year, not every 5 years, so that your references to funding, et cetera, are in fact current and accurate.
Yeah. I think an annual evaluation of the plan is crucial.
Right.
I really do. I think we're going to have to figure out how to make that go.
And it helps us move ourselves
Yeah.
forward toward the goals.
Anything else you want to add, Jim?
Sorry.
I think those are the big ones. So, but as we work through it, I'll
Okay.
share other stuff.
Excellent. Thank you. So are you guys, may I close our discussion, although I think we're in a position to respond to folks and open the floor to the public. Okay, I'm opening the floor to you guys if you have comments for us. And Greg, you have a comment, yes?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Temple. My wife and I live here in town on Market Street. Recently, I had a conversation with Matt. I called him up about a year ago. I'm a master gardener, and then you can get an advanced certification through the Master Gardener program. And I took the Water Steward program, which is concerned with stormwater management. And so I was discussing with Matt and how I was casting about for ways to integrate what I've been learning and what. And he suggested for right now that I work with the Planning Commission on their comprehensive plan, which led me to my immediate neighbor, Casey Greer. She literally is my next door neighbor. And we were talking about this, and Casey has persuaded me to go ahead and apply for the vacant seat on the planning commission. And my goal would be to focus on that part of this comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
The whole
that's excellent.
stormwater management. So, I just wanted to say that in general. What I wanted to say to the planning commission, in particular is that, and this involves, the Queen Street parking lot and, the plans to redevelop it. I think, I've had an interest in, if you go over there and you look at it, you can see that they definitely have a water problem. If you go over there right now and you've been over there, they're pumping water into the storm drain. And then some of the residents, at Sixth Queen and whatever, have been highlighting the fact that all the water from that particular site flows directly into the Middle Creek. And so what I would like to propose to the planning commission and really indeed to the town council is that it might be a very good opportunity to just hit pause on that program or that project and go back and start looking at it from a point of view of taking care of your water management problem, starting from the ground up and deciding what you want to do on the surface opposed to that. So, that's kind of a general
Mhm.
thought that I have. The reason I think why you really should do this, since you're doing the comprehensive plan, says right here, in maintaining the integrity of the state waters and the Chesapeake Bay. Excuse me, this is reflected in the, excuse me here, where am I going to here? All right. Onancock has adopted a Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area Overlay District and regulations as part of the zoning ordinance, and the town should continue to enforce the CBPA Overlay District. As part of the town's Bay Act program, erosion and sediment control is required townwide for all land disturbing activities that exceed 2,500 square feet. Furthermore, all proposed development in the town that exceeds 2,500 square feet is required to undergo a land development review process to protect the water quality and existing vegetation by using the best management practices. So the town requires the use of the BMPs for all development in the resource protection areas. And I think the town should explore all the options available for managing the stormwater runoff and should consider rethinking this project. Right now, I think it's a bit of a simplification, but basically they have a water management problem and they're going to take care of it by paving it over and continuing to dump it into the creeks. And I think it's time for us to step back and think about looking at the site in a totally different way. And I would ask you as a planning commission to do that, and also the town council. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I think water is a big topic for the plan, and it's going to show up in a lot of different places. I think it's a big one.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the status of the plan for the Queen Street area? Is there a consultant working on the project?
This
I
is
read that
Matt
article-
can,
I read that article in the Eastern Shore Post, and it sounded like there's some plan in process. Is there?
There is a plan and process, but we also have engineers that have advised us that if we disturb more than 10,000 square feet, we have to come up with a new stormwater system. So it is part of the plan.
yeah.
Okay.
Any
Yeah, I
other?
would think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I agree.
Thanks.
If we have to by law. Oh, we will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how big it
It's
is.
only 100 by 100 feet,
Yeah,
1,000 square feet.
yeah. Any other comments from the public? Anybody want to speak?
Goes back to
Kathy, could you go up so we can get you on the mic? I know, I'm sorry, but we'll have a stool. I'll bring a stool the next time.
That's okay. This really goes to the idea, Paul, of your suggestion of the kiosk, having it at a kiosk at, I think you said like the farmer's market. OMS just did that very extensive study, and it was presented to town council. And it had such a excellent delineation of questions asking people who live here and of, just basically anyone who happened to be around to fill it out. And it might be a good spot, a good source to maybe double back on that and use some of the same questions. I do feel it's very important that people who live within the town limits itself are listened to with stars all around it. It's been my observation that there are many people who do not live in town, but are very, very willing to tell the town what they should do and how they should spend their money without actually contributing to that base at all. So I think that's an important aspect of opening it up to the public also. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Question, what is your name and what
Oh,
study are you
Oh, we
talking about?
forgot.
Yeah. Patsy.
Onancock Main Street did a very thorough, I felt, survey with, they had over 450 respondents. And
Okay.
I'm just remembering it this off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And the questions were good that they asked, and the response was excellent. And they did do a very detailed breakdown on that.
Do we have a copy of that, the results? Can you send it to us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can get copies.
Town council.
Yeah. Yeah.
One point I'd like to make about Main Street program, which is a great program, is it's focused on Main Street. We're focused on the entire town. So we go way beyond Main Street, but I think it's a great program, and I think whatever info you gathered would be really helpful.
Yeah, they've got a lot of data and they came up with a pretty detailed economic plan. And while I thought a lot of it was really good, I was also horrified that they published it and that it was based on, they did all this study, but they actually didn't involve the Economic Development Authority, the plan commissioner, the town council in the conversation. So it was sort of, which is why I sort of think in the comprehensive plan that we've got to try to bring everybody into the same room and make sure they're all talking, because I feel like there's good energies repeating the same thing over and over again, right? Without necessary, and it's something that you see everywhere, is that, you have groups of good, well-intentioned and talented citizens, and there's multiple people doing the same thing, and they're not necessarily talking to each other very much. So we want to see if we can't get everybody in the same room discussing their findings. So, any other comments from the public? I want to thank you very much for coming and thank you for your comments. We have no old business because we will be working on our bylaws at the next meeting. So now it's time for the town manager update.
Working on budget, and I've gotten no new applications of any interest.
All right. Boy, that makes life easy, doesn't it? So, all right. Well, what we will look forward to from you is maps, and more maps, and we will have a serious discussion about maps at the next meeting, and then hopefully we'll also pass the bylaws. Hang on, I said it too quickly to go to my screensaver. So now it's time for commissioner comments. Does anybody have a comment they would like to make apart from what you've said so far this evening?
I just had a question for the Main Street woman. What? Oh, you're a citizen. Okay.
Yeah,
Thought you were
Jeff
part of-
is on Main
you're
Street.
part of it. What do you think about a few planning commissioners coming to their meeting and the EDA and asking them for input on the plan update?
Oh, I think it'd be more than welcome.
Mhm. Would Main Street be offended if if we did separate government, an Hancock government associated, which I think is the EDA and the Planning Commission, and then widen it to Main Street and Business Association as an open, is that a second open meeting?
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. I mean, I think you're looking at different groups that are looking at have different purposes. So
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any reason
And I
to
don't want
have an issue.
Yeah, good, because I also don't want to have any voice, silenced or inadvertently not loud.
Yeah, I agree. Any other comments from my fellow commissioners? No?
I'd like to thank people for coming and speaking.
Yes, thank you for coming very much. And thank you guys for, I think, what was a really good starting conversation. I really appreciate it. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved, seconded. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much, guys. I think we're off to a pretty good start.
Thank you. There we go.
I have to say that this was a really good,
Yeah,
thank you for doing all.
Yeah.
no question.
Oh, yeah. I actually also give you, I don't.